Welcome everyone. LinkedIn is I think one of our, I'm going to say hot. It's one of the hot topics, one of our hotter topics, because I think everyone's using it and it's just something that's a little bit of a mystery at times. My name is Audra Lavoie. I'm an alumni career advisor with the University of Rhode Island Foundation and Alumni Engagement. And this is a partnership with me and Kara Mitnick, who you probably got the email from. She's the Director of Professional Development for the URI Graduate School. Today, the big things are the commitments we're making, the things we want to make sure we touch upon is talking about maximizing your profile and really understanding how it works and how it comes together. Connections and effectively connecting, and then using your LinkedIn profile for a job search. We're going to go pretty quick through this, and we do have a good size for our group today. So also at any point, utilize the chat feature. And then in the end, we'll also make sure that Kara and I stay on. So if you have additional questions or you want to talk about your personal profile, we can use that time. And so optimizing.
And are we also going to talk about the ability to use us as a resource afterwards for their own LinkedIn? Okay, we'll get to that.
Absolutely. It's our like special offer that everyone who comes today will have the chance to have their LinkedIn reviewed, just a thorough 10-point review of your personal one. And I'll put in a link at the end, and that's the link you'll use to upload once you're ready to have us review it. So with the optimization, the things we're going to cover are that first impression, the summary or the about section, your experience, connections, and then knowing those resources.
So the what and why of LinkedIn, it's very funny. We do this session and most people who are on will say, yeah, I get that I have to use it, but certainly we get people who say, I'm here, but I'm still dubious as to why I need to use it. And so I hope that you are convinced at the end of this. But certainly some of the reasons are on this slide, which is that it really is the world's largest professional development network. There are 700 million users and recruiters use it. So 3 million recruiters use it. People get hired through this platform. There are job listings. And when we say they get hired through there, it's not just that they're job listings. It's also that recruiters use it. Talent development people, hiring people, human resources people, they go on, they put in word searches. Audra will tell you a little bit about that, show you the back end of that. And they will look for candidates through LinkedIn. So it's very important that you are on there, not only to be found, but also because once you do have an interview or once you are in play and submit your materials, people will look for you. They will Google you. And if you're not there with a professional LinkedIn profile, the only thing that's up there is maybe your high school, lacrosse stats or somebody else's name that's like yours. It's just going to be weird. And that's just how it is. You have to have a digital presence, and LinkedIn is really the most straightforward one. It should be algorithmically, if you start to use it a lot, the thing that comes up first, or at least if you have your own academic website soon after that. Companies post. It is a career management tool. It helps you network. People talk a lot about networking. It's an easy way to do it. You don't have to knock on people's doors anymore. You don't have to pick up the phone anymore. You can use this as your platform. It will help you identify employers and connections. It will also give you more than that, not just that immediate sort of thing, but it will help you gain knowledge in industry. You'll be able to follow companies that you're interested in. You'll be able to join groups that discuss what you want to discuss. And that way you'll be able, when you go into an interview, not only to have the type of learning or the type of information you need from your classes, but really current sort of information. You'll also be able to solicit advice from network professionals. Audra?
And we have a big range of people. Like some individuals are really using it as a research tool to just begin the connections and see what the industry is. Others are in an active job search. I personally use this for research a lot, and I've started keeping and maintaining my connections through LinkedIn because it's an easier way for me to go through and see who's connected and what experience they have to make sure, is this someone I want as a mentor or as a potential speaker? So one of the mysteries with LinkedIn is understanding, okay, I have all this content, what's important, what's not. And so LinkedIn actually has its own algorithms in the back, and we'll show you in a little bit what the recruiter view is. And that to me is super helpful, but also just starting to understand these things that you're doing, they really have an impact on whoever's also looking for you. So the headline is one of the biggest ones. So that's that title at the top, but there's all these default settings. And so it's a good pause to say, is that default what I want it to say? Is that actually relevant for the areas and the things I'm moving to and how I want to use LinkedIn? The other one is that about summary section. And this is one where sometimes people have a whole long story and other times people really skip over it, but it's a really important area. So we want to make sure we touch upon that. And then just that reminder that there's all these default settings. So the default of location and the default of also the job titles. One of Kara's favorite numbers is that if you don't pay attention, you'll see the same thing 3 or more times on your profile.
I also want to mention, Audra, that last summer we did a program with a recruiter who was really wonderful, and she took us through the back end of LinkedIn and showed us what she does to find candidates and how she uses it. And so I'm going to ask her to do that again. So look out, and I'm glad to partner with Audra and Alumni on this and do a program again, which I think that you will find very illuminating. So the first impression is your profile picture, right? I know you've heard this before, but it is a headshot of you. You shouldn't crop it from another place. It shouldn't be a picture of you and somebody. It should be its own sort of thing. I know it's really hard now. We used to do the programs where we had the photographer come in and take all of your pictures. Obviously, we can't do that now. This fall, we're hoping to do that again. And maybe even if we can just do it out on the lawn, we'll do it again. But have a good headshot. The position and lighting should be good. You may notice my great lighting. I have purchased a ring light. It is $29, cheap at twice the price. If you're going to have a lot of online interviews, which most interviews now will start with a first interview that is usually either a phone or a Zoom interview. Either just have good lighting at your house, take all your lamps and put them next to you, or this ring light can be, another good option. We do know that recruiters look at your photo. I know it sounds like maybe there's an ADA issue or other sorts of things, but it really is true. And you see this little yellow in the corner, which says that LinkedIn members, people that have their profiles up, will really receive 21% more profile views and 9 times more connection requests if they have their picture up. So I know when we talk to you, and you've heard this ad nauseum about other sort of use of social media, everyone says, be private, hide it, LinkedIn is the opposite. LinkedIn is only for your professional stuff and make everything as public as possible, because if I look you up and I don't see your picture, people will think you're a bot. So they will think that they will not accept your requests, and they will not be as likely to, to look at what you have put together. So make sure that your settings are as public as possible. Have a great photo, have a background photo. So you probably know there's like a background photo that you can have. So there's your picture, and then there's a background. Try to have a background photo. Audra, do you want to maybe show what that is, what that might look like?
So we'll send this to you all. One thing you'll see here too is this actually has a link to a bunch of free background photos.
Ooh.
So that's I think, a really awesome resource because you're trying to find the right thing and really that branding of what's appropriate for my field. So this is an example of Danielle, just a headshot, something that's appropriate, professional dress. And then her area is all about healthcare. And so I love this background that she has that has all the different images that make sense for her field.
Right. So you don't, have to have anything like that. You can have a nice water view or whatever you want, something calming. Just have something that's professional or something that represents you. I love that. If you're in the oceanography school and you're doing field work, put the ocean out there or put a ship out there. Generally, your background photo, Catherine, does not have a picture of you in it. It could, if there were like you at a conference with multiple people and maybe you were presenting or something like that, maybe. I would like to see it. So, sometimes it will. I have seen it when people are getting awards or there's some other circumstance we could find. I'd probably want to check it out. But yeah. So the big gray box has returned. There's
Sorry. That's
so
me when I put the, I just looked at chat. I will not.
That's okay. So the other is a headline, and this is what Audra was talking about. So you saw that picture of that woman. Do you mind bringing that up again, Audra, so we can just talk about what it looks like? Okay, so you see Danielle's name. You could, if you have other degrees, put your initials next to your name. So if you have an MS degree or an RN degree or other sorts of things, that would be a place to put right next to your name. Underneath, that's your title. So what Audra was referring to before is what happens is that LinkedIn will default your title to your most recent job. Right there it is. So that if you don't do anything else and your most recent job, which many, at least graduate students, most recent jobs will say graduate teaching assistant, research assistant. So that all we'll say there will be research assistant. Won't tell me that you're a chemist. It won't tell me that you're an oceanographer. It won't tell me anything about you. And then it will have Kingston, Rhode Island, and it'll have University of Rhode Island a bunch of times. So what you want to do is to try to, you don't have a lot of real estate and people are looking at this page first. You're going to say, well, I have everything filled out. They're going to look, same thing as a resume, look at this and figure out what they can garner, what information they can garner about you. And you should be able to have in your title right there, something about you that's important.
I'm following you, Kara.
All right, do it.
And just exactly what Kara's saying. You're starting to outline those focus areas of the job you want, the skills you bring, results, strengths, what you want others to see. Think about this as in, if you're using it to job search or if you're using it to connect with other people, what are the things you want for job titles? What are the skills that you're looking to use? What are the reasons you're hoping someone connects with you? The thing that we recommend avoiding is the searching for, seeking, open to. And the reason why is on the other end, when someone is doing a search, those are not the words they're using. Same thing with student or recent graduate. They might use student, they might use recent graduate, but once again, what is it that you want them to be looking for? What are the things that you want to use this for? Aspiring unemployed. All goes into what they're looking for. And here are just some examples. There are somebody who is writing a little description, collaborative marine biologist, experienced in fisheries and federal compliance. Like, all right, now that opens up a whole lot of other opportunities. ArcGIS communications writing. So we can look at things kind of separate as skilled, or we can look at this title, neuroscience researcher, physical oceanographer, scientific writer with a background in all these different areas. Let's show another example. We have so many great examples with LinkedIn of people who are doing this really well. So here's one with Richard, PhD, certification, senior manager and principal scientist at AIR Worldwide. And so if he leaves it, it's just going to say senior manager. I'll have this big title, but he can sculpt it. All these parts are completely editable. So you can turn around, or editable. You can adjust them and choose what you want to show. This is usually an area where people have a lot of questions when it comes to headlines. So I just want to take a pause for a second. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I was curious, should or should not be.
I'm sorry, I only caught part of that, Daniela.
Oh, I was curious about how long that kind of headline you guys recommend it should or should not be.
So there'll be a limit, and what we have on the other slide is 120 characters.
I think that's right.
Yeah, character limit. So you are limited. I think, you know, it depends on your field, right? Like some fields really value succinct. I would think about it and go, like, you know, I'll use engineering as an example because I work with a lot of engineers. Engineering is always about let's keep this as brief as possible. However, I can put engineer, but I still want to add in those skills or those other parts. So I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't worry about it. I would add in what you can and just make use of as much space as you can because you are limited.
I'm also going to say that one way you can do it is to, what I might do to craft this is that I would go backwards. I would look at 10, 12 job listings as to what I want to do. And then I would figure out what are 3 or 4 common sort of skills or competencies that those job listings have, right? So you would say, you know, electrical engineer, and then maybe you have a special electrical engineer skill. I don't know what that would be, but whatever it is. And then, you know, something else, maybe a soft skill or whatever it is, or that you got an NSF grant, or that you got an AH grant, or that you got an award or something, but you have those 120 characters. So I really would start with your own credentials. Then I would go backwards. I would go to 10 job listings, figure out the commonalities. What are things they're seeking? What are they looking for? And then if there's anything else that you want to say, like NASA award recipient or whatever it is, right? Those are the kinds of things that should go in a headline, according to me. And Audra. And recruiters.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the biggest parts because Kara and I like to you know, we do so much advising on this. We like to believe that we have a lot of weight in here, but really it's the recruiters. And so the feedback that we're getting is directly from recruiters, which is really helpful to know how they're using it.
Right.
Other questions about headlines?
I just had one more, sorry if anybody else has questions as well, but I just had the one other question about what you were saying about avoiding the searching for and open to. Are you saying to avoid those because that's not what the recruiters are typing in? They're not typing in seeking for or seeking?
Yes, exactly. Okay. This is your real estate. You have 120 characters. How am I going to use it? Do I want to spend that space utilizing words that aren't being utilized by anyone else?
Gotcha.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. And there's actually, we took this actually from LinkedIn itself. They've done their own research on this, and there are articles saying that. And we also have been working with recruiters, and they put in these competencies and skills. They may put in, if they're looking for a graduate degree, they would put in, I'm looking for a PhD candidate, or I'm looking for a master's, or I'm looking for an RN, or whatever that is. But they're not necessarily looking for someone that's seeking, right? A lot of times what their job is to find people that already have a job and get them out of that job. So they're not necessarily intent on finding someone that's seeking.
I have another question. Sorry, I can hear myself on someone's computer and it's throwing me off. But if, like, I'm a student right now, what should I write if I'm not supposed to say that I'm a student? Or also, is there a way that I can indicate what degree I'm working on? Like, I'm planning on graduating in December. So, like, is there a way I should indicate that within my headline or no?
So what are you looking for? Like, what are you hoping, or types of jobs that you're looking for?
Like lab technician type jobs
Yeah.
within environmental science.
Okay. And what's your degree?
Master's.
I'm sorry?
I'm working towards a master's.
Is it like the MESM?
Yeah, MS.
Okay. So what you can put in is you can put that degree right in the title. You're looking now for December. And I think when you look down in education, you can put that, here's the date, or you can describe it better in your about section and explain, completing my master, my MS degree in environmental. Here's what I really have built as far as skills, and here's how I plan on applying them. So your headline is super quick. Yes, you can put something about, and you might just use like this example down here where it has, the second example where it has these little lines in between. So you might have, here's the degree, lab assistant, research, and a skill that you want to use. Great, I'm hitting the keywords, they're accurate, and then I can give it a better, more in-depth description in the about section.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, I also, hi, Cara, nice to see you. I had a question that was very similar to Catherine's. I'm also graduating this semester. I'm currently a graduate assistant. And so I'm looking to creating a LinkedIn account, and I was thinking about my headline because it's very similar to what Catherine mentioned. I don't want to put, graduate assistant and things like that. I'm looking more into jobs that are program officers. So I just was curious, how would you go about recommending me to edit my headline in that way?
So I would focus on the same things. I would, program officer is what you're looking at. If you want to put that completion of degree or the degree title, if you want to, if it's relevant, or focus on those skills that you're using. It's a good conversation too, to say, to exactly what Kara had said, is look at those job descriptions and see what they're asking for. If you keep seeing that there's a certain skill set that's being asked for and you have it, or you're in the process of completing it, then I definitely want to put that in there. It's an area where there's a lot of thought goes into it, but skills that you're going to be using, you can, if you have space, put a little bit about yourself in personality or that soft skill. So if you have a strength in communication or collaboration, that can be really good. If there's something you really, really, I will use the word passion, but I don't really like the word passion, but if there's something you really value, and if that goes into like the fourth one down, sustainability, conservation, climate change, you can utilize these two. So best thing is that reverse. All right, here are the job descriptions. What's true to me, what's accurate, and what do I really want to see in it for myself? And we can look at yours too at the end. So maybe we can be a little bit more specific to you.
Thank you.
Kara, is there any? I don't want to open up the chat. Is there anything else?
I think that, we don't want to, we want you to talk about that that you have these sort of graduate degrees. That's why you've gotten them. They're important. and people are gonna, want you for them, but they're also gonna really want your skills and your experience. So that's really why they're gonna do it.
And everything that Kara mentioned with like that reverse goes right into the about section too.
Right. So this about section, you've probably seen it. A lot of people don't fill it out, but you really should, because it's in that top area. People are going to look at it, people read it. And it's a really nice break from the resume where it's very stilted and you can't use the I, in a resume. We have a different kind of resume grammar where we use this weird third person, and that's, you don't use I or our. But here, this is, we spoke to recruiters, multiple recruiters, and they want you to use I, especially in this about section. So it's more of a conversational, and this is where you can go into, hey, this is who I am. I'm a MESM student, I'm getting my master's in environmental science and management, and I'm on this conservation track because, and this is where you're going to say where my passion or whatever, because I'm really interested in helping clients or helping organizations navigate the important climate issues that we're facing, right? I've studied this since my undergraduate days. I have multiple internships and projects that have to do with groundwater and soil water. I have certifications in this. And what I'd really love to do, and that's where the future comes in. And that's the wonderful thing about this about section, is what I'd really like to do with my degree is, and then you can talk about, I'd like to be able to solve important coastal problems that have to do with groundwater runoff, whatever it is, right? And then, and you have, Gabrielle, you have a certain number of characters that you can use. I think LinkedIn has expanded it, so you can use a lot more. If you're going to do that, edit yourself. People are going to read for so long. Either make it really, really interesting, and I want to read the whole thing, or make sure that it's really hitting those sort of key points and it's really readable. I am going to reiterate that it should have the keywords in there. That's how the recruiters are going to find you. That's how you're going to be able to track. So again, working backwards, making sure you know what employers are looking for, and then weaving those important keywords throughout this about section about you. It could be really a fun thing to write, and we're glad to help you with this when we look at yours.
I'll show the example. So I want to, I did not. Trying to get to our example here. There we go. So we use the term keywords a lot and we throw it around. And when we're talking about keywords, we're really thinking about, I always say we're taking the magic out of stuff. It's the language, like the job descriptions, it's the language in the job descriptions, looking at requirements, and then looking at job duties. And that's my base. Like, that's what I look at. I'm looking to see, what do they keep asking for? What is that repetition here? And okay, great. Those are the keywords that I want. That's the language that I want to incorporate into my profile or into my resume. So this is another kind of interesting background, professional and clean. And then we're looking at, so Jacqueline has a shorter description now, but still has those keywords of being creative, which is appropriate for her field, watching brands evolve, once again, the user strategy, content strategist. There's a lot that's said here that she couldn't say in a title. So it's longer, and she's hitting on some of that key language. And we'll find some other ones that are good descriptions of the about section where they're
and
heading.
she's also not a scientist. She's in this very creative field where this, and it's important to show your personality more. That may or may not be as appropriate for all of us, but I do think that she did get what she needed out. I also no, I don't think she should use emojis. I think she did, because I think pulled this up earlier and it had a very different thing on there. And I think she just changed this. So I don't think we've seen this before, but I do like her title. So if you can go back up there, Audra, to her title. And I find this in really good LinkedIn profiles, which is that it doesn't necessarily say where the person is working. It could, but it really describes them as them, right? As I'm an e-commerce strategist for anybody, right? And I have this UX focused, right? So it's not saying I'm working for this company or something like that, and my title there. She's describing herself.
The thing I like about the about section too is your opportunity to kind of give a professional personality. So, you know, there's a limit, but like you just saw with Jacqueline, like she has a thing about like getting the job done, and there's a different message that's getting across as to what her skills are. And once again, it always has to be professional, but we can share a little bit more to just give us some personality, which I think is one of the advantages here. Other things you want to add to this, Kara?
No.
So the experience part, this, I mean, once again, we're repeating a lot of the same stuff. The keywords, let me look at those job descriptions. If your resume is strong, take it over. I think the big thing that we see a lot of times is it becomes a list, and people list out a job, the company, and the years or the time there, but they're not showing the details. And that's, you know, a job, whether it's research or if it's nursing or if it's user design or marketing, depending on your environment, those look really different. And so being able to describe the scope of that work is important to the other person on the other end to know, do I want to partner with you? Do I want to work and do a project with you? Do I want to hire you? As what we say with all resumes, you know, look at the results showing the impact of your work. If there's numbers that you can use, whether that is increase in efficiency, decrease in cost, volume of people served, or volume of people that you are accessible to, all those are really, really helpful. And then of course, the grammar check.
Yes. I really do have to reiterate the spell check and the grammar check of this. You know, you're going public with your stuff, people would be hiring you. And so this, I know you know this, but I'm just going to reiterate, I do see the spelling errors, and it's a good, that's why I'm so glad you're going to be sending us your stuff. We're going to try to pick up that sort of things, but really try to have another pair of eyes on it.
So this is the recruiter view in the background. And as Kara mentioned before, we had a great guest last year who was able to say, hey, let me show you. So she is a recruiter and was able to pull it up, and we got to say, okay, there's all this area over here to the left that they can scan for. And thinking about this and kind of putting, if you're using it for a job search, putting that recruiter hat on and saying, okay, well, what are they looking for? Is it the job title? Is it the location? This is a big question we usually get asked about. I'm here now, but I want to be somewhere else, or I'm looking for jobs in a certain area. What do I do? And I think for those things, we usually recommend put the location you're moving to. So that way, once again, you pop up on those searches and you can always go into more detail in that about section and say, you know, completing courses or finishing contract position in Rhode Island, moving to this area next. Questions that we have. I'll pause here again.
So I have a question. I'm not sure if you are open to like multiple locations, like you're not limiting yourself to one specific location. How can I put it in my like my LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's a tricky one because I don't believe they allow you multiple areas. Kara, do you have?
I would probably, I would probably put it into your, you could certainly put it into your about section. Interested in pursuing opportunities in Cleveland, Miami, and, you know, San Diego. So that would show it. I would think then you'd probably be safest keeping your current location because it would be the least confusing. But as you're getting closer to graduation, you know, you could start to choose a location, but it would define you. So you might just be safe enough using your, if you have really have 3 locations you're looking at equally, you know, that this trick is not going to work for you. But if you have 1 or 2, it may.
Some people do leave it blank. I don't know if that helps you in any way. I would think not really. So I would definitely agree with Kara of choosing something. But this is where like there's limits to everything, right? So here's where you hit the limit here when you're going, I'm looking for multiple areas. Same thing if you said, I'm looking for, you know, 3 or 4 totally different types of jobs. Okay, well, that's gonna make it a little bit more, it will make it more complicated to show a story of relevancy and strength for a certain field. It's definitely where you still say, okay, now I'm going to do some extra outreach and I'm going to use my search opportunity to find the area and the types of companies that are in that area and make those connections. Other questions? All right. Kara, do you want to talk about connections?
Yeah, so we talked about building your profile, and it feels like a lot of you all have been using LinkedIn. So I bet you have a good LinkedIn profile to start with, and these are just ways to optimize it even more and recognize the importance of that. And then what you've got to do is when you've got this snazzy new profile, we got to start connecting with people. You'll see when we do our rubric, you should try to use it. We say have at least 50 connections, try to have more. Do we want to have just anybody as our connections? Not really. We want to try to build them in a way that's strategic and makes sense for us. So who are we going to connect with once we have a profile that we think is good, right? Let's not start with connecting. Let's start with building our profile. Then we get the connections. So who's great? People on this call, your peers, right? This is how a lot of people get jobs, is through their peers and their networks. Certainly that's a great thing to connect with. Your professors, certainly people in your field that you find that maybe these are the people that you want to work for, right? Or alumni. That's really a very good captured audience for you, because people will want to give back. That's probably the best place to start. We have a LinkedIn URI alumni database that has 90,000 people on it. These are all people who are either currently at URI as students, including you're in there, and people that graduated. It's fantastic. You can put in your master's, MESM, PhD, English, whatever it is, and people will come up. So that's a great thing. We're in a different mode of looking. People you meet at conferences, I want to tell you, you should connect with recruiters, especially if you're in these sort of fields. Once you're interested in, say you want to work at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island, you should try to connect with the recruiters from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island. This is the URI LinkedIn alumni database.
So for any, like if you are somebody who's gone to multiple schools, you can go to any of the universities or colleges you've gone to and look at their alumni or their page, which will have this alumni link. So if you go to LinkedIn and then /alumni, I just start by searching for the University of Rhode Island. And now when I click alumni, it's exactly what Kara was saying, which is hey, here are almost 90,000 alumni, and this number goes up a few thousand depending on the day. But I can start to say, if there's just a certain company I want, I can add that company right in here. If there is, I'm not really sure, like, let's go back to that user design. Who's doing user design? I can put that in as another keyword. I can look at years. If I want to look at where are my peers, the people who I graduated with, where are they working? And then I can look at by my major, what they studied. I use this all the time because I often am looking for mentors or connections for somebody. So if I'm working one-on-one, you might tell me that there's a certain company that you really like. And we're going to use CVS just as an example right here. So as you make connections, we can say, all right, CVS has 783 alumni. And now I can go here to we're in my profile right now. So I can look at my profile and say, okay, and I know I have 2 people that are my first connections. That's really helpful because maybe they're exactly the match I'm looking for, or maybe there's somebody who can connect me to the other person that I'm looking for.
That's just the coolest feature, I think, which is that you can go to a company. When we say a company, it can be an organization, it can be a nonprofit, it can be a government agency, but you can see how many University of Rhode Island people they've hired. That's great information. And you should connect with some of the, to connect with 793, that wouldn't be appropriate, right? But you can connect with people who are doing what you're doing at CVS or at that institution.
So for what Kara was saying about, okay, there's a company I'm really interested in. Great, here's the company. I can look at the people who are connected here. And then I can keep going through and saying, okay, do we already have something in common? Did they study at? So I can go in reverse. I can also just do a search at the top where I start narrowing down people. Like a lot of times I'm working with somebody who really wants to see who the recruiter might be. So I could use this and see, do they work in human resources in here? So now I have 35 people, Blue Cross Blue Shield on LinkedIn in human resources. Here's a whole pool that I could go through and say, is there somebody that is a talent acquisition, who's the recruiter that I might want to reach out to and have that conversation?
Right. And the recruiters, believe me, I know it feels like, ooh, they wouldn't want to connect with me. They do. They tell us that. They really do. They want to connect with you. So if you find an organization and you've got this great LinkedIn profile, that's a great thing to start, is to start connecting with recruiters. I'd probably try to start connecting with some alumni there first, because they actually like to see that you have those connections first, but certainly the recruiters are interested in it. And you can say in your, I actually will send you, I just did a session on what to say. Audra has some slides here, which are very useful. And I have another slide deck too, which I can show you too.
So we said we would have you guys done by 12:45 and that we would continue on, but we want to make sure we stay within that time. So we're going to fly through the next minute. The big thing I want to show you here with job search, a lot of people are using LinkedIn for job search. The big time saving skill that I think is super important is that LinkedIn uses the Boolean system. So you can say, I can put and or. So if I wanted to look for research at a hospital, I can just put research and capital letters, hospital. Or I'm going to use one of these because these are one of my most recent searches. If I'm looking and this job title has a bunch of different titles, or I'm talking skills, I use or in capital letters. So if we're sticking on user design, I might talk about UX or UI or user design or a certain system that's used. I can use user design and insurance because I want it to be at an insurance company. So this is just one of the big ones that I like to highlight because it's a major time saver. You can search for multiple jobs at one time. And that to me is huge.
So here's a great, so this slide just gives you some language to use about what to say when you connect. You don't need to write a whole story. And a lot of times you can't, because if you don't have a connection, or you don't have a second or third connection to that person, or first connection, then you're going to very limited. So it could be something like, "Dear Juan, it was nice to meet you at the Oceans Conference. I'd like to connect," right? "I'm also in this group," and there's groups on LinkedIn in your field. So there's marine science, right? There's whatever it is, your field. There are groups that you should join. If you join these groups, the advantage of joining these groups is that it will allow you to easily connect with the people in your group and also with their connections. So that's the benefit of it. And you'll be able to write more, and they'd be able to see that they already have a connection. So you're kind of a safe person to connect with. And so there are reasons to join these groups, beyond getting the sort of career information, being part of the conversation, learning more. It's also because you can leverage these connections within these groups.
And then we already talked about the job search part. This was the comment on and/or. LinkedIn Learning, we often get asked if it's worth it. What we would say is go in with a plan and use that 1 month free subscription and see if that works for you. Skills, if you look at the profile, it's only your top 3 that are visible. Someone can expand, but it just means you want to be smart and kind of prioritize what those top 3 skills are.
And so I want to just chime in, because I've dealt with this twice this week, which is somebody's LinkedIn profile. And they were in a STEM field, but their first 3 things were like about very soft skills. That's great. But when you're in a STEM field and you're trying to get hired for that, put in GIS, put in whatever it is, MATLAB, put in the sort of things that they're going to be looking for into those top 3.
And then here you'll have a link on posting articles and professional materials. Just a repeat of all these resources that are available to you, engaging the stakeholders. So really just wanting to use this for connections. I mean, this is what it's all about, but being smart with your time and saying, who is it do I want to connect with? A lot of times people will ask us, how active do I have to be? You don't have to be crazy active, and you don't also have to always be posting your own stuff. You can be that ally by sharing what other people are doing that's relevant for your field. So that gives you a resource, and it also helps them share when you have a question, a comment, or something that is coming up that you want to highlight. So really quick, 1, 2, 3, complete the profile. That's the big thing. Making sure all those places are in. We can always improve, we can always tweak, but that's super important. Communicate with those connections. So once you connect, thank them. If there's something that's relevant, tag them, whatever, just keep that relationship going, and then being active. And we said we would post, let me open up the chat here. 1 second.
Being active is an important thing. I don't think you should, you don't want to post too much. LinkedIn is not like, Instagram or